Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded February 24th, 2021. Good evening, Franklin.
Good evening, Edward.
Is it too dark in here? I'm setting the mood.
Fine.
Right. You know, this is how most people in the world think hackers are, right? We just sit in the room like, do this, right? But no, can you tell? It's 6:04 in Atlanta and the sun's still out. That means the planet is on the right side of the sun right now, right?
Hey, I want to tell you, I know that you get up at like 4 a.m. in the morning, okay? I don't get up till like, 2 p.m. So when you actually text me and I have you like on like a favorite, so your text actually goes through, I usually have like do not disturb set to 1 p.m. So of course I get a 10 a.m. text and it just says, yo. So of course, since you're like one of my favorites, it actually dings. So it wakes me up and I yo you back, right? And then of course, not for a half an hour you get back to me. I could have been sleeping even longer, but by then I couldn't even get back to sleep. So maybe that's why I'm having a bad day. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if you'd have responded back quicker to the yo.
I think it was like 1 minute. Come on.
No, 1 minute. You know how much damage I can do in a minute? You know, when it microseconds, right? When I'm trying to do trading, that 1 minute is like eternity.
There you go.
So I my bag on that. My wife pulled me to go do something and I lost it. But you like I didn't ping you as soon as I woke up this morning because I woke up late this morning. I got up at Actually, I got up at 6 on the nose this morning. Yeah, I did. And I got up at 6. Yeah, that's about right. But my apologies, man. You know, that's what you get for just adding any old Mysticrint to your favorites, man. They'll just drunk text you in the morning and just do anything. You got to choose your friends better, man. You know, I'm apologize. I forgot what I even texted you about this morning. It was about.
I know. Then after all that, you forget.
No, it was about the thing that you want to submit. Yeah, whatever. I forget.
I'm having such a bad day that, and I've talked about this in the past, that I had to pull out the Microsoft security blanket.
The security blanket. Look at that.
I don't know if it can be seen, right? So you tell me. There you go. Microsoft security blanket. There you go. So yes, that's pretty big if you look at it. So this is what they were giving out at.
Well, there moth holes in it. The dog's been gnawing on it?
No, a cat. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this was a great thing at RSA. I mean, it was one of the best giveaways, except if you won like a motorcycle or a car. I mean, this is a really good giveaway that they had. So I've had such a frustrating week that I've had to hold on to the Microsoft security blanket. So.
Well, man, I'm sorry. It's Red Cup security. So now it's time for some highly opinionated facts. Before we get into,
I was going to spend an hour just like saying bad things about the Power Platform, even though my week has had nothing to do with the Power Platform. I just enjoy being up on the Power Platform. But go ahead.
Expand.
No. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I forget now. It's been that type of week. No, good times. Learned a couple things. Working through some POCs. Once again, shout out and kudos to whoever wrote the KQL modules in the Microsoft learning path for Sentinel. They're actually pretty good. I highly recommend them, especially when you do it right and you don't just cut and paste. You take the time to type it because it builds a muscle memory for the type ahead with the IntelliSense, right? I believe that's what it's called. And that when you're typing something, it's recommending commands and forward, right? And so that's pretty good. What else? Weather's great down here, man. House is good. Got a new laptop. I forgot I ordered it. It came. So I played it for it. I gave it to one of the good buddies of mine who was starting a new business. So I just gave it to him actually with no strings attached. Hey man, take it. I got enough junk in this house. Found an old Cisco firewall I had been looking for. ASA. So I'm going to get it. I'm going to get the iOS on it, update it. And I think I still got access to it because of my Cisco credentials to get to pour down the iOS. I'm going to update that and I'm going to put it in line with all the other firewalls. What else? I learned some good stuff. I was part of a road mapping session for Defender for Endpoint. I can't talk about it. Both cool, but both confusing. I'll leave it at that. And then, getting a lot of talk about this exam, right? I'm actually going to go ahead and take it in March. Actually, I want to take all the ones that are relevant to me, the SC exams, right? So I want to do that. What else? I, I think that's it, man. What about you? I know it's been frustrating because you've been writing all week and doing PowerPoints and labs and stuff. So what's up?
I had a really productive week last week. I finished out the PowerPoints. I'm actually doing I'm finalizing the labs this week, and it's really I've been in like Azure subscription situations and nightmares and stuff like that. Just setting up the labs that, coming from my environment that's already set up and then going to a clean environment, demo environments, and doing things that I'm used to doing in mine has just been kind of frustrating. That's all.
Yeah, well, you're the one that wanted.
Yeah, there's been some good talk about the overall, other than the learning or the learning path 4, which is the KQL side. There's been some good talk about the overall learning paths out here, which is good. So I think that people that go to the instructor-led training for this versus just the learn side are going to get a lot out of the labs that come with the instructor-led training. And I think that the KQL is a representative example of the sort of labs you'll be doing with inside the instructor-led version of the course. So
hey, you know what? And I can tell you the last time I've been into an instructor-led course, and both of you and I are Microsoft certified trainers. So the instructor-led course, what does that give you? Other than the obvious. Is it live yet? Instructor-led training?
It's going to be live, I think, at the end of April.
Okay.
So, so that's the PowerPoints I was finishing up.
Okay.
And the labs I'm finishing up. So one of the cool things that I did for the labs over here in the create detections, and so when you're actually so one of the things when you're developing courseware now, you actually have to focus on developing it in something that's going to fit with inside Learn, which is different than the way that I developed content in the past. Mm-hmm. The other thing is you need to reuse Learn content if it's there. Okay. So when I was putting together the course, they had just released the Sentinel learning paths and not dealing with SC-200. And I had to take a look at their modules and say, okay, what I wrote, is it providing how much more value? And if it's not providing that much more value, then I have to reuse what's out there. Okay. But it was really up to me, right? So like the data connector side, I provided much more in-depth information. But, when you take a look at putting together playbooks and stuff like that, it's kind of, there's only so many ways that you can go and do things. And the other thing is that when you take a look at something like the section here for insider risk management, right? I mean, what was written for Learn is really good. So what am I going to do that's actually better than what they already have? There's not much more. So I was able to reuse some of the Learn content. Some of the Learn content, I said it did not provide the depth that I was looking for, and so on. So the instructor-led training is a variation of this, but the stuff where I had to say, okay, I'm not providing the additional value and I can't justify not using what's inside Learn already, then that additional content is with inside the instructor-led side. The other thing is obviously the advantages of being in an instructor-led scenario, of them walking you through and answering questions. The other thing is you get labs. This is pretty standard for all of the instructor-led side. And I spend a lot of time focused on making the labs meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the challenges, like the Defender for Endpoint, okay, how do you go about doing an attack on Defender for Endpoint that you hope will actually still be able to be attacked in 1 month from now, right? So there's a lot of things where I'm reusing what Microsoft's provided over here in the Microsoft 365 Defender side, just because it's safer from maintainability of the course moving forward. But I think that what's interesting that I did in on the Sentinel side is that I have an entire lab around going out and doing actual simple attacks. They're not complex attacks, but then basically modeling that attack and then the thinking process for you to go through to look at the data, understand what's in the data, and create a detection from it. So I think that process in those labs is very, very valuable. And you just have to go about doing that and see. And that's the sort of thing where the instructor-led training, not only the labs, but also the instructor showing you that sort of thinking process, works out. So, even when you take a look at what they call the skills measured, as the instructor, when you take a look at the overall course, you say, okay, this is 25%. You would think that the course would actually be broken out specifically to the skilled measure. And I didn't do that. I put an entire learning path for Defender for Endpoint, right? Which I think most people, and I actually put that first, which is, I think people might find kind of strange. And then it rolls into Microsoft 365 Defender and everything under that. And the reason why is that I think that there's when you draw lines in the sand, like, all right, what is this person responsible for? If you think about it, right, how much are the SOC analysts responsible for, some of the identity areas? They're not, they're just responding to threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but with Defender, and the other thing is you have to say, okay, how much would I expect just a typical networking person to understand about security? How much more do I have to provide to them? And Defender for Endpoint, I think that the SOC analyst has a lot of things that they should be doing, but also providing to the overall IT side. So this content is actually broken down for the Defender for Endpoint and the Learning Path 1, where you kind of like go through, okay, what is Defender? Then you set up the environment. You make sure that Windows 10 is doing all the ASR rules and configured the right way. And then you really can't see it here, but from doing the forensic side or the analysis side, okay, you got an alert coming in. You're going to perform a device investigation. You're looking over the device. Then you're performing actions on the device, and then you're looking at the evidence coming from the device, and then you're dealing with configuration for everything else going forward. The threat and vulnerability management side I put at the end. That could have been pushed up in the overall side, but that doesn't really matter. So, and I think that the other challenging part of this course is actually Azure Defender. Because Azure Defender, forget about Defender for IoT for now, but Azure Defender is basically embedded within inside Azure Security Center. I think that separating what is security posture management versus protection, detection, and response, cloud workload protection. The SOC analyst is responsible for the cloud workload protection, not the security posture management side of Security Center. So breaking that out and having them focus in on that area, I think is kind of challenging, but that's in the skills measured.
Well,
so
I'll give you my perspective on it once you finish.
So
well, all the learning paths are good, but when you look at it, the strength of Microsoft's ecosystem of security products is also, in my opinion, a weakness unless you figure out how to absorb this knowledge. Think about each one of these learning paths could be a separate job at a company, right? It's the same guy that's running your SOC and Sentinel, the same guy that's having to have to deal with Azure Defender for Servers or Azure Security Center, is that the same person that's dealing with Azure Defender for IoT or CyberX? Or is it the same person that has to deal with endpoint? You can see that person just in the knowledge base is a unicorn, right? Now, there are some folks who do all of it, but no one can claim that they can be a 400, which is Microsoft's old method of measuring skills, 400 being top level, right? They've redone it. Nobody's really adopted this new nomenclature they tried to do. Everybody still say 100, 200, 300, 400. But this is a lot of knowledge for a person to claim that they're an expert on. Now, if you can be 401, 302 of them and 101, that's still a really good mix. That's still a great employable guy you want on your team, especially at a high level that can help drive the individual expertise. But it's a lot to absorb, right? And I like the learning path. It's structured enough. I'm going through them all, even though I do this every day, because it's helping me unlearn some bad habits. Right? Customers will help you develop bad habits. Okay. And so, yeah, I don't envy you having to do this, right? Now, for our listeners that are new who may not know, when Franklin is talking about writing, creating, he's actually creating and correlating a lot of this content for this learning path, right? He is writing this stuff. So just for those who don't understand it, they're saying, well, what does he mean? He's writing this. Yeah, he's actually doing this stuff, right? So, hey, man, good work. What's the word that you use for constant updates? Errata, Ikata, whatever. You got to keeping it updated. Are you keeping this content fresh?
So, if they actually contract me back to to update it, then I will. I've given them a list of things because you have to understand this originally was written back in December, right? So that's why I was always screaming about getting the unified portal.
You have it now in your tenant?
I have it now, of course, 1 week
but
after
you and I last year on our podcast, that was a hot point, right? I was getting hot.
Because, because I know that I'm writing content that's going to have to change because of the unified portal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I tried my best to be forward looking about what's in here. And so it can be maintained moving forward.
Well, one thing that because Microsoft's telling everybody to go to the unified portal, don't mean you have. They're not deprecating, depreciating, or eliminating the legacy portals to be able to get into. Yeah.
I think that, and so when you take a look at what number 2 here is this mitigate threats using Microsoft 365 Defender, where I don't really go into Defender for Endpoint. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Azure AD, which of course is M365, Defender for Office, Defender for Identity, Cloud App Security. There's insider risk and DLP, right? So I still think that Defender for Endpoint would be a learning path on its own. I just don't know if it would be the first one in the list in the future. But I think that I still probably keep it there. The only thing that I got was, hey, you shouldn't have KQL. They wanted, so some people wanted me to push KQL all the way over here to Learning Path 7. And I'm like, so the reason why I didn't do it that, for one, is that when you're creating detections, I don't want them to have a new big thing to learn. They should just focus on Sentinel and detections, not learning KQL. So that's why I put it in here, right? But the other thing is that when you go through Defender for Endpoint, when you go through all this stuff, kind of like Learning Path 4, which is the KQL stuff, is kind of like a mental break between these other things, right? Just kind of a fun day to go out and do the KQL
because you hear it reference, so now it's time to let the boogeyman out. You're gonna have to get to it. You can avoid it, right?
I mean, technically, I could start with KQL because that's that's what's you could do your hunting over there in M365 Defender. But I gave the course design a lot of thought about the person, and we've had some good things out there on LinkedIn. People saying that it's practical and everything else. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, it's good work, man. I'm following it and I'm doing it, and I've learned a few things out of it that that I like, oh, I've been doing this the wrong way, right? So good stuff. All right. Well, we talked all exam. We encourage our listeners out there to go get at it, take the exam.
So,
I hope.
yeah, Microsoft Ignite next week. They have security content. Most of it for me is on the second day, which is Wednesday. They'll be talking about it much more. I mean, the official announcement for the course is next week. These courses have not been officially announced, but it's on their sites. You know, the exams are on the site, so we're free to talk
I've not
about it.
signed up for any of the night sessions. I'll do it over the weekend or something. Right.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
So definitely check out. There's a lot of specific product stuff. So I'll be interested in seeing what comes out of it. But this brings me to one of the things that has annoyed me this week. And so I have to ask you this. I look at there's the SMB customers, and I look at there's people getting into security, right? So like when I put together this training material, I have things in mind. Hey, if you go out and read a blog post, I look at all the building blocks, all those building blocks to do those solutions that Rod Trent and others are doing should be in this class, right? And then I'm also looking at, hey, these are experienced SOC analysts, how to get them up to speed fast with the specific about Microsoft. So let me ask you this, right? You have SMBs that hopefully now understand that a firewall and antivirus is not all that they need. You have people that are just learning about security, okay? But then you have the enterprise customers, right? And so I'm just going to too many Microsoft rep, not you, but just the general rep events where they're going over the basics. I mean, the very, very, very basics, not of the product, but of security, right? I mean, do you walk in and say, here, let me tell you what an EDR is, right? Or let me tell you what a SIM is, right? I mean, most of the people that I've had the fortunate opportunity to be around in the past, these are the sort of people that I'm glad that they actually took the time to talk to me in the world of security. So to me, I wouldn't waste their time with those presentations. I mean, what are you seeing? I mean, are you walking into enterprise customers and they're like, hey, what's a SIM? Or are they like, hey, here's my problem with these other products. Are you solving it? I'm just seeing too much of the basics of security versus focusing in on the enterprise customers that know what they're doing and they're just looking for the solutions.
Yeah, well, there's no one answer, and so your answer is yes, right? This looks like where the customer is more mature than the person is trying to suggest a solution, right? And the customer is finding out these reps, right? I'm not a Microsoft rep, so but they're finding them out, right? They're asking these cookie cutter questions, which to a customer can be aggravating, especially if you've been the rep on this account for years. Like you have no idea what I'm doing. You have no idea what my security roadmap and security mission is. And you're coming to me talking about basic SIM stuff, especially if you're running a SIM. And so the easiest way to get someone to keep what they have is for you to suggest something and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, right? And you're seeing that everybody wants to do what you and I do. And reps want to sell it because they believe this is a hot thing, but they don't want to educate themselves about it. It is beyond what a SIM does. If I'm an enterprise customer and you come in and you start giving me the basic building blocks of a SIM, I'm gonna get your ass out of there, right? That it's been around. It's like net new. Don't tell me what a SIM is. Tell me what is the differentiator and what makes my people more effective and makes me safer, right? And a lot of these sales reps, and I want to make sure I'm very charitable and fair in what I'm going, are going to be eliminated, justly so. Because the evolution of just knowing the buzzwords are over. Customers become more sophisticated because they have to be, right? You're starting to see even the executives knowing more than the atypical executive would know in the past, right? Right? Because when you buy a product like a SIM, it's a long sales cycle. It's an emotional sales cycle, right? A lot of fear, both buying it and changing. And it's going to be a career changer. If you tie yourself to something that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars over years, and it could be a career limiting evolution for someone who's in charge of making that decision. So if I don't trust someone who's trying to convince me that this is going to make me better, I can't do it. And then I'm going to question everything else you've done in the past. That's just the nature of people, right? So you're absolutely right. Um, there are so few, and not just Microsoft, anybody, they can understand how to sell this particular technology set. Forget the vendor name. Because I think most people think that Splunk came out as a security company. Splunk is not a security company. Splunk is a data company, and they put their stuff around log aggregation, correlation, and intelligence to be able to pull out information based on data sets that were ingested. And then someone suggested, oh, security. Why? Oh, because if you can pull logs from firewalls and routers and switches, that's security. Do. And then the whole SIM thing took off. Now everybody's doing it. SimologiC, Alien Vault, QRadar, ArcSight being one of the legacy guys, old heads, right? But now everybody's used to this technology. So how do I evolve the technology beyond what the technology is supposed to do? I need a new deployment methodology, management methodology, administration methodology. I need metrics to measure the effectiveness of the technology. And there's what business owners are going to ask. The effectiveness is, am I getting the same efficacy at a lower price without sacrificing the things that I need, right? But you're right. A lot of these reps are not doing themselves justice, and they're hurting their products because they don't care, right? It's too hard. I'm used to selling a SKU. I'm used to selling a license. I'm used to doing this. I don't like the long sales cycle. I don't like being constantly involved. And I'll tell you what a lot of sales reps don't like. They don't like evolutions like that. Do you know why salespeople don't like selling services?
Because they don't get the revenue right away.
That's one. The other one is that's a huge risk until that project's done. So when you're trying to get a long-term engagement product, and there are too many pitfalls, landmines that they believe could blow up their relationship, right? That they can't control. So anyway, that rates right up there with best practices, talking licensing with me, and a few other things. So, but when I do find a rep that I have to be partnered with or someone that came in and I can tell that they put the work in, they don't have to be an expert. It's not their job. The job is to show value, communicate a thought process, or communicate value and make it understandable so that the executives can consume it, and then the boots on the street and the implementers can consider it.
All right, so let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you a top 2 question. It's not based on, I could say, what's the top 2 value propositions for Azure Sentinel, right? And so it could be different per customer, I would say. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you, over the last 3 months, even though there's a break there, what were the top 2 value propositions, if you put them all together across all the different customers that you've said?
Number one, they truly understand that cloud native and cloud powered wasn't a buzzword. That your SOC is where your browser is. Because when you go to a traditional SOC, that equipment got to reside somewhere. Now, I know that some products are installing their product in somebody's cloud, but you're just still standing up IaaS, and you're still just inherently moving that workload up to something else that Wizard wasn't built for it, but truly cloud powered. A 1A is if you're a Microsoft fan and you have the other products, even if it's E3. E3 still gives you a lot of bang for the buck, right? But if you E5, you're golden. That's the 1A. Number 2, the learning curve for Sentinel is not hard. If you can put some time, be honest in the effort to learn KQL. People are like, oh, KQL, I want to learn it.
Right.
If you put the effort in about 4 to 5 hours a week, you'll get good at it, right? Because there's so many things inside Sentinel that you can reuse. If you don't understand the query, go grab one of the analytic rules.
Just go out to the tech community thing side to
and open up an editor.
Right.
Because well, I like using analytic rules and the things that are already built, right? Take a workbook, take an analytic rule, take a hunting query, expand it out so you can see the KQL behind it. So they've already told you what the rule is going to do. You put it in one window, and then you take the actual KQL syntax and you look at it and say, how did I get that visualization here? How did it pull that? And once you realize that the graphical interface is because of this KQL query in the back, you bring them together. It takes a minute, but after a while, you'll be able to look at the graphical interface of a workbook, notebook, analytic query, hunting queries. You'll see the KQL framework.
I mean,
and go that way.
I'll upset people and say this. Sentinel is just a database application, right? And you're just writing KQL query to do the visualizations, scheduling, whatever else, reports, whatever you're doing. But at the heart of it, it's just a database application.
Yeah, I mean,
you're importing data, you're writing the queries, which is KQL, and then so you got the data, then you have the KQL, then everything else is going on.
Yeah, because you use KQL for Cosmos DB.
So I mean,
yeah, it's and that's all it is. It's a log aggregator and a data repository. All SIMs are that. They have their own secret sauce for what their detection stuff is, but it's none are perfect, right? Azure Sentinel is not perfect. It is part of the imperfection is it's still relatively new, and part of it is it does sometimes have a super reliance on the majority of its benefit being that you're a consumer of Microsoft products to see immediate benefit. Now Sentinel can ingest just about anything. I mean, I've yet to find something it could not ingest. And then when a customer say, see, it doesn't do it. I said, well, show me where it's doing it in yours. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, well, anyway. All right, man, what topics we got today?
What topic do we have today?
Well, let's go to the first tab.
I mean, we're at halfway mark, so let's take a look here.
Brain remediation. So Jordan Ross is a program manager, and he focuses a lot on the Azure Sentinel, and I think he also covers MDI, right? With his playbook, you're able to integration, and you're able to lower the effectiveness of being able to operationalize and make your Sentinel instance. And one thing we got to stop too. Everybody that has a SIM doesn't have a SOC, right? I mean, I think sometimes a SOC is it's looked at as someone in a room with a bunch of computers and people walking shift on. They do this stuff. You've seen all the things in all the movies, right? I prefer security operation platform or security operations something else, right? But everybody that doesn't necessarily have a SOC. Sometimes think about it. Can a SMB, a small mom and pop shop that has 10 people run Azure Sentinel?
They can run it,
but they don't necessarily have a SOC. I think the biggest thing is finding a skilled person. Now, does that person become SOC as a service? Me as a service, right? I can come in and operationalize it for you, right? But this right here is helping with remediation steps, which is one of the biggest things. Detection is number one, and then remediation, right? So this right here is creating workbooks, playbooks, and everything else to give you this. Let me tell you the best part about this is, if this doesn't fit your thing, this is so easy to go modify. And if you blow it up, guess what? You just blow away that workbook or that playbook and grab it again and start over, right? So I see that Microsoft is hugely focused on operationalization of their product so that it is SOC adoptable. And think about how much you save, right? Number 3 that you asked, you said the top 2, savings. If you decide to switch, and maybe you know this better than me, have you ever seen someone switch from, let's talk to one of the big boys, switch from ArcSight to Splunk? If you did, Were they able to recycle and reuse all that equipment that they had, or did they have to maintain it in a manner that they had to run it side by side, because to try to recycle and reuse it would destroy the operational platform that they need, and they can't have a gap in detection and coverage. Think about that. If you decide I'm leaving Splunk, I'm going to ArcSight. I'm leaving ArcSight, I'm going to QRadar. I'm leaving QRadar, I'm going to Sumo Logic. I'm leaving Sumo Logic, I'm going to Alien Vault. Leaving Alien Vault, I'm going to whatever. You got to build another side-by-side environment. But in Sentinel, that strength is I can run next to whatever you got, because I'm not disrupted to the infrastructure that you already had. By the way, it's failing every day because you're spending more time trying to keep it up than it is actually operating it. That's a strength. I've yet to see anybody who's running. Well, that's not true. I did see someone that are running two of the legacy infrastructure centric SIM solutions, and their experience was we had to totally rebuy everything, right? Other than the switch fabric. But even then, they were scared about overloading and stuff like that. So, but this remediation is nothing more than being able to give low hanging fruit to responders and everything, and writing it. So it's good stuff. Remediation. Right. Nicholas Dakota wrote that too, and so that's really good. So what you got right here?
This one is categorize Microsoft alerts across data sources in Azure Sentinel.
Yeah. So being able to come in and understand what type of telemetry and giving it a tag or characterizing as it coming in. Is it an identity alert? Is it this alert? Is it an endpoint alert? Is it a process alert? Being able to categorize it and have a way to understand these data sources fit into a particular category. I think in an old way, you would call it, sort of like tagging, a facility identification about what's going on. Facility, no, that's not it, but tagging and labeling of such things coming in, and being able to see across where you are, categorizing this so that you can make your searches more efficient, saying that I need all identity related stuff or SaaS or endpoint, and being able to see these things. So you can see that they're trying, and that's the same thing with the first one. That remediation seems like it's reactive, but it's actually a little bit proactive, because when I can automate the response and remediation, that inherently helps you lower the noise. Because one of the big, pain points with Azure Sentinel out of the box is noisy. Why? Because all the other stuff that you got feeding into it is noisy. You have these incomplete policies. You started the MCAS. You have completed an Intune policy. You did something in Azure Identity Protection. You have did something there. So junk in, junk out, right? Junk in, junk out. So when you can help reduce that and then go back and sort of narrow the focus of the noise, right? You're good to go. So categorization is actually pretty good right here, and using the playbooks to do it. Now, user entity and behavior analytics. I love this. This is one of my favorite features, right? Just like watch lists are your favorite features, right? So I know how much you love watch lists. I often hear customers, let me tell you, a savvy customer. When a customer says, I don't need a proof of concept, I need a proof of use. Does your product have a use case scenario or paths that benefit me? I think I've said it on the other podcast. You're going to have a state-of-the-art Gartner, Forrester thing that says, my product has 100 widgets. But if your company only using 75 of the widgets, and then another product comes in and has 75 of the widgets, but you can use all 74 of them, which is a better use case. Unless there's a mission critical aspect of feature set in the 100 widget product that you have to have. But then you can still go back and say, is there another way to do it, right? Technology is not very often a limiter on how you do stuff. It's the process, because you can manipulate technology, right? You and I have been out in the field. I've made things work, right? When someone come behind me, like, how the hell did you get that to work, right? So this user behavior UI and feature set in there, man, is easy. I can go in here and say, I need to know everything about Frank. Type it in, and I can see it. And then if I need to extrapolate it out into a query that I can modify it at a very granular level, I can. But this is what I always highlight when I'm doing proof of use case and value to a customer. I tell the customer, you got this running? Yeah. Give me a name. Well, what do you mean? Give me a name. Name of what? Person, URL, machine, IP address. Give me something. Put it in there. Here's everything about them. They modified this group. They would put it in this group. They sent this email. They did a forward. They did this, so on. So this is one of the things that if you're out there, let me tell you something. To the sellers that are watching us, or to someone that knows a rep out there, this is what they need to be selling. This is going to help their life, right? All right, because customers are smelling out reps who don't know security, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, they have the SC-900 course coming up, but that's still too basic if you're selling into somebody that knows what they're already talking about. So they need to do the SC-200 course. They need to do. I mean, they should do the SC-900. That's for sure. I think the question becomes, if they do the SC-900 for a regular rep, do they really need to do the MS-500?
No, well, yeah, but I don't know the answer to that. But the user entity behavior insights, if our listeners don't have a test tenant up or something, get this up, get it running, and
So-
it is super eye opening to at least give you a place to,
Right.
look left, look right, up, down, or look up and down, left, right at the same time, right?
So what they've done here is they've added in 4 panels to the right side to the on the entity page. And one of the things is people coming from other products. Sentinel has the advantage of being a new product, so they can actually design things from the ground up instead of throwing things on top of other things. And I really appreciate how clean the interface is to quickly find information. And it's getting cleaner and more information is surfacing in a way that's easier to see and help you decide while you're investigating something. So that's really great. Okay.
One of my favorites, landing places to say show value. Even if there's no alerts or incidents, just being able to do a dossier manifest of a particular entity, and I believe the 4 entities are user, URL, IP, and host, and you can search on those. And if you can really get those, you pretty covered, right? I'm not really concerned about protocols and ports, right? I want to see the activity because all that is piping. I need to see the activities happen on the piping, right? What they're doing. Now, here's something. This is the bane of everybody. This is why people quit their jobs. I'm tired. I'm burned out, right? Handling false positives in Azure Sentinel. A false positive is a false positive is a false negative, which then is an actual negative, then it's not a positive, right? So being able to go in and do these things. Now, why this is important. Not only Sentinel, but all security monitoring, log aggregation, correlation, were getting beat to death in 2020 because everybody's working from remote. Unfamiliar login location, login failure, fail MFA, all these things. People who are at home using VPNs because they don't want anybody to see their traffic or what they're doing, right? What they're at their house, and you get all these false positives. If this is super important to be able to go in and be able to start reducing that noise, right? Because the fidelity of the information coming in doesn't change. I'm not changing at the source. I'm changing how I respond to it coming in. And if she give me an indication that I think I got a whitelist of IP lists that's sort of bad, right? Or I got a subnet that I'm including in as corporate it shouldn't be, or something like that, right? So handling false positives is one of these blogs that if it's something that has an action item that you can do, go do it, right? I like to say that at the end of our show, we give you homework. This is a homework item. If you're running Sentinel, look at the examples that OFAR gave and go do these things, right? And this is going to help you. I tell you someone who absolutely needs this. School systems, they're getting beat to death. School systems are just, oh man, I saw a guy that I knew he was IT for a major school system here in Atlanta. He had no hair. He's out. It was falling out anyway. I just cut it off. He had a buzz cut. So, but those are the things, right? So, oh, what else we got?
That's it.
That's it. Well, we got some news. So we have our guest list for our guests that are coming on in March. Should I tell everybody, Franklin? Should I? Or should I hold it?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. We got some heavy hitters from the Microsoft realm. They're going to come in and talk about their favorite security products and what they do. A little combination of both, and maybe give a little education. We're going to have a Mr. Christopher Munez on March 3rd. He's from the Microsoft Customer Experience team, and he covers Azure Sentinel, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Azure Microsoft Defender for Identity. And this young man is impressive, super impressive. I've learned so much from him, and he has to cover post POC, post proof of use cases where the customer has gone from validating to actual production, and then the customer experience team come in. I've learned a lot from this guy. Wait till you got. I mean, he has a lot of energy, not like an old far as me and you, right?
You can speak for yourself.
Yeah, March 10th, Matthew Lowe. Matthew is a program manager at Microsoft covering Sentinel and I think one other security product. Huge amount of insight about functionality, feature set, and the train of thought about what is happening to the product. And he's going to share some of his favorite features that either are present or maybe coming down the line. Christopher Bone, and I'm saying his name wrong. I think it's Beyond. If you think Rod Trent was heavy, wait till you talk to Chris. Really good, right? And I have a tentative person who is a CSA cloud solution architect focused on security, Ninad Dosh. I worked with him a lot. He's over at Microsoft. We've done some customer deployments together. He's a steady state CSA, meaning that once everything's in place, he helps the customer get through those blockers, right? Like too much noise, connector issues, logging architecture. He's especially good in multi-tenant and MSSP architectural considerations. Really good at that stuff, right? So he's going to come in and maybe talk about that. So we have a full docket for March, right? And we got some standbys in the event someone has an emergency, they can't make it. And I think what we're also trying to do is get any prior guests to come on as a roundtable at the end of every quarter. And we're going to have a roundtable of like, what happened? What do you guys want to talk about? Make sure everybody brings a beer, sit down and say, okay, what have you guys seen? Tell us something good. And I just want to have some lively debate. You and I can be quiet and let all these guys talk.
Or we come up with a KQL problem and see who can finish it first.
Yeah, I may do that. We're also looking at bringing some diversity to the thing, both from we want more individuals of color in the security field represented. We want some women on the show. I've got some invitations out for them to come on. Some of them have said no, they don't like podcast video. I said, well, you don't have to be in the video. Just come on the podcast. So they're going to come on super sharp. We also want to get some Microsoft partners. I want to hear what the partners are doing. Are you adopting Sentinel? Are you reselling it, as a service? I've talked to one partner. He was adamant that he did not want to do it. He did not want to build a service around Sentinel or any security because he said it was too much noise. Everybody seems to be doing it, but I want to get a partner, and I'm gonna find one that has a security practice but doesn't operate a MSSP model, and then I want to get one that has an MSSP model that is including Sentinel in it, right? And another product. So those are
some international people in too. I mean,
we got to get some international folks. So we got to find some time zones. But this is the show of the people.
The different perspectives from around the world would be good.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm dumber than a bag of rocks, right? And I'm insulting rocks by saying that. So I love to learn. I love to hear someone else take, right? A tidbit here, something here. As my mentor told me, good artists create, great artists steal. And then I'm always taking something from somebody like, I did not know that, right? I want to get Matt Sosman back on. He's one of the better presenters, and he's super influential out there. I want to get him back on, friend of the show. And then maybe we'll branch out a little bit. Let's stop talking about Sentinel and the MDE products, and let's start talking about some of the other workloads.
Need to do some tabletop exercises and stuff like that. How people would defend from Microsoft people coming in.
Tell me what you've seen in the field, right? I want to go get some of those guys who's working on Azure DDoS, Azure WAF, Azure Firewall, Azure Front Door, Azure Policy, Azure Blue Policy. So let's go get some of these Azure guys and girls and people, whatever, and let's get them on the show. Let's break up just this piece here and get some perspective, right? Because no product is an island, right? If they're using Sentinel, how many people have you known use Sentinel, but they're not using any other Microsoft Azure product, right? So how are they using the other products? How are they using Key Vault? How are they using um, um, God's another product? I can't think of the name of it. Someone's using it.
I mean, Azure is only about 3 products, so
It's only about 3. I can't think of the security product they were talking about, right? I got pulled into Azure Key Vault, because the customer wanted to bring their own HSM. They wanted to manage their own keys, and that's a hardware security module for those who don't know what it is, right? To manage your key infrastructure. So I think we have
Azure Defender for IoT. I'm very interested in that.
I can get somebody on,
because I think people don't understand Azure Defender for IoT from 1 year ago to where it's at today with the changes.
So if what we'll do is, I know the person at Microsoft around there who's in charge of it, who would love to come on. If we get a cancellation, because I think we're booked for March, we'll get him in, right? Or if you and I just shut our big fat mouths, we can probably get 2 people on the show, right?
We can do 1 a week. It's fine.
Okay, we do. 2 people on a single show, not twice a week. I don't have enough time, man.
Then again, they could team up on us if you do that.
They can come on. Yeah. Franklin and Edward.
Now, we can if we only bring on 1, then we can team up against that person.
So. They bring 2 though. It's like WWE. You got to tag me in. Tag me in, Frank. Tag me in. Come off the top rope. I'm gonna tell you something. See, fear is for others, not for Franklin and Ed. I'm there for you, right? Hey, man, good show. I hope your week gets better. Go get you some Chick-fil-A French fries. Hey, you can get the Chick-fil-A nugget sauce in the grocery store. In a squeezable bottle. Who knew? I'm putting it on everything. Pork chops.
Didn't they get rid of the actual good sauce for a while, and they had to bring it back or something like that?
Yeah. We had the best sauce. Didn't McDonald's have Szechuan sauce or something?
Okay.
It was like liquid crack. I should lick it out of the thing, man. Not that I know what crack tastes like, but if it did taste like that, it would probably taste like Szechuan sauce, right? It was really good. Hey, man, I'm having fun. I'm seeing some new tech. I'm doing some stuff. I actually had to have my hand in some actual deployments. Did I tell you about the bug that I found in MDI? When you do a trial and the trial expires and you can't create a new workspace. Yeah.
That's for another show, though.
That's for another show. We got another issue we're trying to work through. Proxies are not always your friend. Customers have huge proxy environments, and they don't have it well documented to understand, and it is not your friend, right? Because most people think that proxy is just controlling outbound single instance, but there's a lot of return traffic validation that has to happen, right? And still troubleshooting a couple of things, so hopefully I can get that figured out. Everything's good, man. Good luck on this. To our listeners, the challenge still goes out. First person that takes the SC-200 and provides proof that they've been a listener of the show past one episode will pick up the cost of your exam. Pass or fail. Well, no fail. You can never fail an exam. You can just not pass. You get to take it again, right? And that's it, man.
All right, so people sign up for Ignite, go to the security sessions, and we will see everyone next week during the middle of Ignite.
In the middle of Ignite. Yeah, we're going to be recording in the middle of Ignite. Will it be a live session? The night will be, I don't know how it is. I'm so confused. Will it still be going on?
Yeah, definitely.
So. Yeah, send me your sessions that you are following. I really haven't signed up for any. I'm probably whatever you're going to watch is what I'm going to watch anyway. So, plus I'm lazy. If you tell me what these are, I don't have to go look for them, and I can do it myself. But all sir, right. It's my turn to cook dinner for the wife. I better get downstairs. She's an evil taskmaster. There is no mercy in this house. None.
You need to stop. She listens to this.
I know, right? My wife's like, oh my God, you suck. I wrote KQL in my sleep. She said, I can write KQL in Python. Is that right? Bye, lady. All right.
All right. Until next week.
Until next week.